Well, guys, everyone is talking about this. Today in San Francisco, President Biden met face-to-face with Chinese President Xi Jinping for the first time in a year. Yep. Biden said, "Thank you for being here." And President Xi was like, "Thanks to TikTok, I'm always here."
That really wasn't funny. I wasn't even, was that was a laugh line? Seemed to work with the clapping seals in the audience they had there. And it was TikTok that was spreading the Osama bin Laden letter yesterday, which has been embraced by Democrat Party youth all across America who now love Osama bin Laden more than the United States of America because they were raised by the left. Quite an extraordinary story. Chanting "Gas the Jews" at New York University are the students. NYU being sued by sane people. Hundreds of thousands of sane people on the Mall in Washington, D.C. day before yesterday. And last night, about 150 socialists, what are they, Democrat Socialists of America? And that's what Bernie Sanders is. And the Democrat Party is no friend of Western civilization and no friend of the United States of America by any stretch of the imagination. An extraordinary time we're living through. Jewish students sue NYU, claiming university allows students to chant "Gas the Jews." They call themselves liberals. No kidding. It's true. And a passel of young Americans in their 20s praising Osama bin Laden on TikTok yesterday after the Chinese communists in Chinese communist land had their TikTok influencers promoting the Osama bin Laden letter. And lots of 20-something-year-old young Americans who vote Democrat and attend American universities were so impressed with Osama bin Laden that they now understand everything very differently. Their entire world has been shattered, and now they see clearly. You know, I was kicking back and forth with my friend Brian, and Brian said, you know, they love the Osama bin Laden letter, which they do. Mein Kampf is going to really knock their socks off. That's going to change their worldview, and they'll never come back. They're already chanting "Gas the Jews" and "From the river to the sea." Now, Osama bin Laden has impressed them to the point where their lives have been changed forever. And Mein Kampf has got to be next. We should, maybe Xi Jinping should get busy having his TikTok influencers promoting Mein Kampf on TikTok so that the Democrat youth can really catch up, because these are scary times. And again, I was discussing just a few minutes ago, my best girl and I have someone with whom we have a business relationship. And my best girl was talking to him yesterday, and he's a Jewish man, which I didn't even know until yesterday. And he was literally tearing up and choking up and unable to continue a conversation because he is so traumatized by what is happening in the United States of America today. And make no mistake, this is all being driven by the Democratic Party and the left. They will lie about that, and they will deny that, and they will scoff in your face at that. And then they'll go back to chanting "Gas the Jews" at NYU and projecting "We praise our martyrs" on the walls of University of Pennsylvania, the Poison Ivy League. They're doing the same thing at Harvard and at Yale. In fact, we had the more than 100 Harvard faculty sign on to a letter. I was sharing it with you yesterday, promoting the Hamas party line and condemning anyone that defends Israel and, God forbid, Benjamin Netanyahu. You know, MSDNC the other day, I played the audio for you, Mike Carbuncle. I know it's Mike Barnacle, but Mike, you know, something that clings to the bottom of a ship. But Barnacle talking about the Twin Towers of Tyranny. The Twin Towers of Tyranny are who? Is it radical Islam, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Iran? No, it's Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump, who is not in office right now, But we have a very dangerously demented Democrat Party on the loose today, and they are not on the side of civilization. They are the left. They are not liberals. Not even close. Yeah. Wait till they discover Mein Kampf. Boy, that's going to curl their hair, isn't it? Just crazy. Yes, sir. Yashar Ali writing on X. Over the past 24 hours, thousands of TikToks at least have been posted where people share how they just read Osama bin Laden's famous letter to America, in which he explained why he attacked the United States. The TikToks are from people of all ages, races, ethnicities, and backgrounds. Many of them say that reading the letter has opened their eyes, and they'll never see geopolitical matters the same way again. Many of them, and I have watched a lot, Yashar Ali says, we've watched a bunch and we played some for you here, say it has made them reevaluate their perspective on how what is often labeled as terrorism can be a legitimate form of resistance to a hostile power. And Barack Obama calls Israel the occupiers and the occupation. The Democrat Party is a threat to Western civilization at this point. This is not limited to TikTok. Similar videos have been posted on other social media platforms. The British newspaper The Guardian had a copy of the letter to America posted, but once these TikToks and the influencers used them to see to it that this bin Laden letter went viral, The Guardian took it down, which has only led to more interest in the letter and conspiracies from TikTokers who say this is part of the media, wink, wink, the Jews, and the power that control it to silence the truth. You see? That's what's going on. And get a load of this. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, I think she loves Mein Kampf. Mein Kampf, in case there are any Democrats listening along, is Adolf Hitler's book, My Struggle, is what it means in Deutsche, in German. And I think that's got to be next on the Democrat Party hit list. Representative Rashida Tlaib, a Democrat in good standing with the media and the Democrat Party, but I repeat myself. Rashida Tlaib is part of a hidden Facebook group that glorifies Hamas, mocks hostages. This is an extraordinary story. Representative Rashida Tlaib, who says she's advocating for peace, but she's a lying Sacagawea, after Hamas October 7th terror attacks, which Chuck Schumer calls January 7th terror attacks, because he's very confused, very easily confused, against Israel, turns out Rashida Tlaib is part of a hidden Facebook group. It's invitation only and all this stuff, that has praised the jihadists who kidnapped and killed hundreds of civilians, including at least 33 Americans. She hates America most of all. Tlaib is a member of the Facebook group Palestinian American Congress, Fox News reported, whose founder, Mar Abdel Kader, has referred to Israelis as not real Jews, they're not the real Jews, and questioned whether the Holocaust really happened. Holocaust denier is the shepherd at this Rashida Tlaib Facebook group. The Facebook group, which Tlaib joined 6 years ago, has posted lots of images of Hamas fighters following the terror group's brutal assault and left at least 1,200 dead. Now, interestingly, Israel has come back and said initially the number was 1,400 Israelis killed. They came back because they're not troglodytes, and they corrected the record and said actually after reassessment, it's 1,200, not 1,400, killed across southern Israel. Around 240 people were also kidnapped and taken back to the Gaza Strip by the jihadists. And the Rashida Tlaib people, they're virulent, genocidal anti-Semites. They're Holocaust deniers. Remember Alan Dershowitz, the law professor emeritus, Harvard University, came out the other day and condemned Barack Obama's rhetoric, which is the rhetoric of Hamas, that the Jews are occupiers, they're invaders, they're colonialists, right? And Rashida Tlaib, amazing. Just this Facebook group that is that is all about hate and praising the jihadis, praising the murder of the Jews on October 7th, praising the kidnappings, the decapitations, the rapes, the brutality, 80-year-old women, Holocaust survivors. Never mind that. But that's your Democrat Party, and that's Rashida Tlaib. And that's just fine with the Democrat Party, honestly. Rashida Tlaib should be booted from Congress. That would require a recall election, I believe, but just amazing. Yeah, Holocaust deniers praising the terrorists, posting pictures of the brutality and laughing about it and praising it, and she is a Democrat member of the U.S. Congress. Your Democrat Party today. Also, the Democrat Party showed up in force yesterday to be violent. A violent mob of about 150 Democrats attacked the Democratic National Committee headquarters yesterday evening. Gets dark early. And they're a violent mob once again. DNC protest update. 6 Capitol Police officers injured in clash with pro-Palestinian protesters. 1 arrested. Now, wait, there are 150 rioters, and that's what they are, rioters. They're not protesters. 6 police officers injured, and only 1 protester arrested. How does that make sense? The police doing a great job down there, U.S. Capitol Police, and perhaps Metropolitan Police as well. I think also Metropolitan Police. Police officers literally pulling a mob of far-left pro-Hamas lunatics away from the door of the Democratic National Committee headquarters in Washington, D.C. All hell has broken loose. Democrat congressman deems protesters calling for a ceasefire pro-terrorists. And this is pretty amazing. Democrat Congressman Brad Sherman, he has an ex-post, was just evacuated from the DNC after pro-terrorist anti-Israel protesters grew violent, pepper spraying police officers and attempting to break into the building. Thankful the police officers who stopped them and helped me and my colleagues get out safely. But you want to defund the police, and they're actually the bad guys, right? Capitol Police working to arrest pro-Palestinian, that's pro-Hamas, protesters, that's rioters, outside DNC building in D.C., say members have been evacuated from area. That's Democrat members of Congress and Republican members of Congress have been evacuated. And you got left-wing reporters like Dave Weigel, who's a bootlick. Yeah, Sherman is wrong. I was outside the building. I saw the U.S. Capitol Police officers spray protesters, not vice versa. Well, maybe you didn't see everything, Dave. You're not God, boy. But never mind that. Lots of cameras there. I just took a few videos because people tend to lie about these things. Well, you just did, Dave, so never mind that. Just amazing. U.S. Capitol Police with an ex-post. Tonight, 6 officers were treated for injuries ranging from minor cuts to being pepper sprayed. There's the police on the record saying they were pepper sprayed by the radical left. And it is the Democrat Socialists of America. Bernie Sanders is one of those. So the minor cuts and being pepper sprayed to being punched. 1 person has been arrested for assault on an officer. 150 should have been brutally arrested and dragged away. We appreciate our officers who kept this illegal and violent protest back and protected everyone in the area. That's what's going on here in Washington, D.C. last night. And this from the United Press International, 100 protesters injured in demonstrations calling for Gaza ceasefire. Got a left-wing reporter typing this one up, Mark Moran. Gee, it'd be a real shame if 100 protesters were injured when they violently attacked the DNC headquarters. The leaders came down from New York, the Democrat Socialists of America. What is an insurrection? I will remind in just a moment and share some of the audio of the event with you coming right up. Hey, it's Chris Plant. Excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. Now, the George Washington University campus newspaper, The Hatchet, has a story today. Person throws rock, damages truck, showing anti-Hamas message. Let's be clear, Hamas is your problem too. And it's a Jewish group, and the Democrat Party is a violent criminal mob, and they're pro-terror now. It's absolutely amazing. The driver of the truck alleged that a female threw a roughly 4-inch rock at a billboard in the back of his truck that read, "Let's be clear, Hamas is your problem too." And it belongs to Jubelong. Jubelong is the name of the, like a Jubilee, Jubelong, an organization that supports Judaism and combats anti-Semitism. Happened noon 30 yesterday, 12:30 p.m., and the driver of the truck alleged that the subject said, "Free Palestine," when he asked her why she threw the rock before she fled the scene. And then tragically, she was shot and killed by a sniper on one of the rooftops, and her parents are still being notified. All right, that didn't actually happen. The last part didn't happen, but just amazing. Right there at George Washington University, where they were projecting praising the martyrs on the side of the building, a Palestinian group. Now, you know, the Jewish people in Israel were living side by side in peace with the Palestinians in the Gaza, which is 141 square miles with more than 25 miles of beachfront property. And then they decided to start butchering and decapitating and gutting and raping and kidnapping people. And that became a problem, you see, because civilization has to stand up for itself against the opposite of civilization. I am a Zionist. I'm an Irish Catholic, Basque Catholic Zionist. And I will stand up for Israel. But the Democrat Party, you know, Joe Biden is playing both sides of this one. And and also you saw every single Democrat in the Senate the other night voted against $14.3 billion for Israel. 51 Democrats in the Senate, 51 Democrats voted against funding Israel. Night before last, hours after the pro-Israel rally on the Mall. And an insurrection is an act or instance of revolting against civil authority or an established government. I'm going to play for you what the Democrats did last night.
I've come on the most urgent of business. It is said that the people are revolting.
We said it. They stink on ice.
Boy, oh boy. Yeah, insurrection, according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, is an act or instance of revolting against civil authority or an established government. Now, the Democrats have been doing that in Seattle and Portland and Chicago and Washington and New York and Baltimore and Atlanta and Ferguson, Missouri and Kenosha, Wisconsin. Those are all acts or instances of revolting against civil authority or an established government, are they not? And last night there was another insurrection in Washington, D.C., when violent agents of the Democrat Party attacked the Democratic National Committee headquarters on Capitol Hill. And it was very violent, and at least 6 police officers were treated for injuries, being pepper sprayed, being punched. Also, I just told you the story of a man driving his truck by George Washington University with an anti-Hamas message on it, and a young woman, a dainty young woman who may someday be the mother of children, but I doubt it, threw a rock at the truck, let's be clear. Hamas is your problem too. It says on the back of the truck. On the side of the truck, it says, we're just 75 years since the gas chambers, so no, a billboard calling out Jew hate isn't an overreaction. And the man driving the truck, man whose truck it is, Adam Tavernier. Adam Tavernier is driving the truck, and he's driven it, he says, to college campuses all across America. This came into Washington for the pro-Israel rally on the Mall day before yesterday. And this is the first time he's had a violent attack. He says, I've been probably to 100 college campuses and never had anybody damage the truck. I've never had this happen, he said. He comes to Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, the George Washington University. There are cameras everywhere. This young woman should be found out. She should be thrown out of college and never accepted to another college. She should be charged with assault with a deadly weapon, insurrection, probably, riot, property damage, felony assault, a 4-inch rock she threw at the truck, causing damage, and she should be taken to court. She won't be, though, because the left, they protect their own rioters. Their violent insurrectionists are protected by the Democrat Party and their agents in the permanent bureaucracy. Man, now here's CNN's fake story. Top House Democrats, just Democrats, evacuated from DNC headquarters as police clash with protesters calling for Gaza ceasefire. They're protesters, not rioters. They're calling for a Gaza ceasefire. They care very deeply about the children and funding for Planned Parenthood. Law enforcement clashed with protesters calling for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war outside of the Washington headquarters of the Democratic National Committee Wednesday night. After authorities said the demonstration turned violent and lawmakers were evacuated from the building. That's CNN's summary. According to a person familiar with the matter, the Democratic leaders, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, House Minority Whip Catherine Clark, and Pete Aguilar, the number 3 Democrat, were inside as the clash between protesters and police erupted. About 10 members of the House of Representatives were there, according to the source. And were any of them tragically injured and severely damaged and taken to the hospital? No, apparently not. But the House Democrats evacuated. That's kind of fun story. United Press International, barely hear from them anymore, says 100 protesters injured in demonstration calling for Gaza ceasefire outside DNC. And United Press International says at least 100 people suffered injuries and 1 was arrested when demonstrators calling for a ceasefire of Israel's military action in Gaza protested outside the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee. It was mostly peaceful, wasn't it, Michael? It was entirely violent, but Democrats are mostly peaceful. They could kill your whole family, and it'd be mostly peaceful because the family next door lived. Just extraordinary. So that's your news media take on it. And police said demonstrators protested illegally and violently, and the news media is protecting them. Organizers said protesters were pepper sprayed and pushed by the police during the demonstration. See, the cops are the bad guy. This is, they still claim the cops were the bad guys in 1968 at the Democratic Convention and the riots that the Democrats had in Grant Park in Chicago. They still blame the police for that. It was the left. It was the rioters attacking the police. And they couldn't be bigger hypocrites, but never mind that. So they're blaming the police. Demonstration organizer Donnie Noble, we have audio of her, disputed the police characterization. There's videotape all over the place, or video from phones, no tape. Protesters became violent and members of the Jewish Voice for Peace Action, which calls itself the largest progressive Jewish anti-Zionist organization, that is, They're anti-Israel. They don't believe that Israel should exist, and they would wipe it out. How do you think that's going to happen? How do you think that's going to come about? Just amazing. All right, let's go to some audio because I got a bunch of audio for you on this. Let's go to soundbite number 1 because that's where it begins today. Here are the Democrats attacking the DNC headquarters in Washington. Oh, look, it was mostly peaceful. They say it was peaceful. The police attacked them. The video shows otherwise. They lie all the time. They're the left. Let Gaza live. Well, then stop murdering everybody in an army, and we won't have to come after you with our army. The savages butchered 1,200 people, kidnapped hundreds more, raped, decapitated, slashed, murdered babies. And their charter calls for the total extermination of the state of Israel. And you're either with them or you're against them, all right? You're on our side or you're a terrorist. You're on the side of civilization or you are bin Laden. And these young Americans who are so thrilled by reading Osama bin Laden's letter and, slapping themselves on the forehead, I can't believe I wasn't always in full agreement with Osama bin Laden, just like Barack Obama's spiritual guidepost, the Reverend Jeremiah Wright, being on the side of Al-Qaeda even at the time of the massacre of Americans in 2001. Sumaya Awad, a member of the New York City Democratic Socialists of America, who had gathered with the demonstrators, had just locked arms in front of the building when police responded, quote, with brute force. They gave us no warning, Awad said. Awad said one demonstrator was pushed over the railing and landed on their head. When they say their, does that mean the person was non-binary, doesn't know what gender they are? And that there were multiple calls for first aid. You know, these people bring along medics, and they yell, medic, medic, like it's an episode of Combat with Vic Morrow. Capitol Police posted on social media, our officers are working to keep back approximately 150 people who are illegally and violently protesting in the area of Canal Street and Ivy Street Southeast. Capitol Police reported members of Congress were evacuated from the area. It sounded like this. Now, this is one day after 300,000 pro-Israel people gathered on the mall in Washington. There was not so much as a donut thrown. No one was injured. No police officers were injured. A half dozen police officers injured here. The UPI says 100 protesters injured, but they lie all the time. It's extraordinary, but it's true. And honestly, this is the Democrat Party. And the contrast is quite stark. And the news media will not draw this contrast, this parallel. This was 300,000 people on the mall the day before yesterday. The violence you were just listening to was 150 Democrats yesterday. Violent criminals. They should have brought out the fire hoses and then beat their heads with wooden billy clubs. And then used tie wraps to strap them up like pigs and drag them away in paddy wagons. I've just used two anti-Irish slurs, the billy club and the paddy wagon. And that was on the mall the day before yesterday. Our national anthem, the Israeli anthem, peace, harmony. Everyone was happy. Schumer was the only one who sounded like rabble when they gave him the microphone. Honestly. And let Gaza live, you know. They let Gaza live. Gaza was living 141 square miles, 25 miles of beachfront property, living side by side in peace with a two-state solution until the savages, the blood-drenched ghouls from hell, attacked like the savages that they are. So the Democrats showed up, 150 of them, the Democrat Socialists of America, Bernie Sanders' party, and a number of other Democrats in the Congress party. Now members of Congress are being evacuated. The area was shut down by the police, and they arrested one person. They should have brutally arrested 150 of them, if there were 150 of them there. Here is a typical Democrat, apparently a female person outside of the DNC headquarters.
We're outside the DNC. We're outside the Democratic Party headquarters because this party claims to be on the side of life and peace and equality. And we're saying that we want them to live up to their values and oppose this horrific war and call for a ceasefire now. And we're being responded to by the police shoving anti-war activists down the stairs, shoving peaceful protesters back with their bikes. And because our party that 80% of us want a ceasefire, would rather beat up protesters.
I certainly would. And there's that 80% thing. I've been saying the role of the media is to convince the American people that the views of 10% of the populace are actually the views of 80% of the populace. She's obviously mentally ill, mentally disturbed. She should be involuntarily incarcerated in a mental institution. She is a typical Democrat, and the Democratic Socialists of America, they're on scene. Then a woman, another organizer that I just mentioned from the news article, Danny Noble.
The folks in that building tonight, the folks in Democratic leadership have not been listening to the 80% of us from our diverse communities that support a ceasefire to stop this genocide
diverse
of Palestinians. And instead of being met with leaders engaging with us, instead of being met, again, our peaceful protest, we were met by police.
The peaceful protest. You heard the peaceful protest. I've just been playing the peaceful protest for you. That's pretty. And 80%, they both use this 80% thing because they're brainwashed, glassy-eyed zombie loons. You know, I think we should go down and give them a hefty supply of fentanyl. Just a thought. All right, now, a Democrat Congressman, Brad Sherman, went on to CNN last night where he sat down with the left-wing radical Abby Phillip, who pretends to be an anchorwoman. Democrat Congressman Brad Sherman last night on CNN.
Yesterday, there were over 200,000 pro-Israel demonstrators with a permit, entirely peaceful. And here you have a demonstration less than 1,000th as large that's also getting publicity. And it's getting publicity because their willingness to attack police, as they did with pepper spray, is a force multiplier. A few demonstrators willing to attack police getting a fair amount of publicity, whereas the amount of publicity for 200,000 peaceful demonstrators proportionately less.
You think? Hey, even a Democrat noticed it. You're going to have to leave the Democratic Party. And then CNN has this fraud of an anchor woman named Abby Phillip.
I just want to make a note here that we don't know exactly who was responsible for the pepper spray, but as we continue to report on this story, we'll learn more. Congressman Brad Sherman, I do thank you for joining us tonight.
I believe the Capitol Police.
Oh, he believes, she sighs. He believes the Capitol Police. The Capitol Police said that the socialists were pepper spraying the police. And CNN's not sure. They've got the video right there. But they don't believe the police because off the pigs, man. Defund the pigs. The Democrat Party is a danger to our country and to civilization. Brad Sherman might be waking up, but I doubt it.
Let's not bicker and argue about who killed who.
There is a left-wing fake reporter named Dave Weigel. The picture here on Wikipedia looks kind of like Hitler. He worked for the Washington Post and left-wing Slate and Bloomberg Politics, and now he works for something nobody's ever heard of. And he says he was at the riot last night, but it was real good. He says, no, Congressman Sherman is wrong. I was outside the building. I saw the U.S. Capitol Police spray protesters, not vice versa, but the police say otherwise. Then he says, Dave Weigel, he says, I circled the building to check. There were protesters blocking each entrance, but the building wasn't completely surrounded. Like no one was surrounding the walls, just the doors. I don't know how you surround just the doors. He's illiterate too, Dave Weigel. Not a smart man, not a bright man. He must have gone to Harvard or something. That's pretty amazing. So they weren't surrounding the walls, just the doors. That reminds me of, where was it, in Portland, where they sealed the doors to the police station and set it on fire with the police inside. That's Democrat Party activity. It's mostly peaceful, mostly peaceful. Might be a good time to whip out some mostly peaceful T-shirts and coffee mugs, which we have at the Chris Plant store. Mostly peaceful because, the Democrats, they could shoot Kennedy in the head and say, well, I was mostly peaceful because that only took a second and the rest of the day I was peaceful. Honestly, these people. And the U.S. Capitol Police say they had 6 police officers treated for injuries, cuts, being pepper sprayed, being punched. But Dave Weigel says, no. No, it was the police using pepper spray, not the rioters who were peaceful protesters. They didn't surround the building. They just surrounded all the doors to the building. That's all, 150 of them. Amazing. Your Democrat Party. Extraordinary. Joe Biden was meeting with communist Chinese leader Xi Jinping yesterday in California. And Xi Jinping went home with Joe Biden's lunch money. He's an embarrassment. Joe Biden then accidentally called Xi Jinping a dictator. They use the words, but they don't know what they mean. Joe Biden is not up to the job of being president of the United States. U.S. lawmakers question Apple over Jon Stewart's China content. Is China dictating terms to Apple executives, saying who can work there and who can't? Also, what did Albert Einstein say about the Chinese people when he toured China? Kind of a fun thing. Also, 3 dogs stolen at gunpoint on East Capitol Street. That's down by the U.S. Capitol where the Democrats had a riot yesterday. Honestly, look at Tuesday's event and yesterday's event, then choose.